Hey everybody, welcome back to The Pressing Matters. I'm Scott. Thank you for tuning in today and thank you for your support. Well, today I'll be talking about the new Analogue Productions Atlantic 75 series release of Genesis Nursery Cryme. I've been listening to several other pressings in anticipation of getting this, and I'll tell you what I found in just a moment. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you know that I'm a big Genesis fan. Not only have I done reviews of the other releases in the Atlantic 75 series, which are Selling England by the Pound and The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, but I've also done one on Seconds Out and one on Wind and Withering. So if you're interested in those, you can check out the links that I'm going to leave in the description box below. This album was released in 1971. It was their third studio album, and the first to feature drummer Phil Collins and guitarist Steve Hackett. The addition of these two musicians really enhanced the sound of Genesis, and I think this record is a big jump up in quality over the previous two. The first one was called From Genesis to Revelation, and it really is an outlier. It's a great album. I love it, but a lot of fans don't like it because it doesn't have that prog sound, that heavy prog sound that came later on Trespass and Nursery Cryme, and then Foxtrot. It's more of a pop album with a sinister edge. It wasn't until Trespass that songs like The Knife pointed the way towards what was going to happen on this album. The centerpiece of this album is a track called The Musical Box. It's a famous track, it's a fan favorite. They performed it in concert many, many times, and even Phil Collins performed it when he was heading the band. It is a showpiece of this album, and it takes up all of side one on the 45. I'm going to talk about these other pressings briefly and why I feel like the 45 is the finest edition of this album. I'm going to go through these quickly. The first one that I listened to was this copy that I've had in my collection for a while. It's a US pressing in a single sleeve. It's on the Pink Scroll label. It says the famous Charisma label. This is distributed by Buddha Records. This is abysmal. It's really bad. Really bad. It sounds like a distant tape copy. Has none of the dynamics and nuance of the UK pressing. It's also pressed really poorly with thumps in the vinyl and heavy groove noise. And it's not like it's a used record. It was new when I bought it, but it's not a very good pressing and is best avoided. The second pressing I tried out was this UK pressing that John sent me. This one is a 1U, 2U matrix pressing. It does not say Porky in the dead wax. This is a beautiful record, really nice. And when I heard it, I said, this is how it's supposed to sound. I knew, of course, from my Classic Records edition what it could sound like, but hearing the UK was a treat. It's beautifully balanced. It has more extension, more space, more air, more everything. It sounds much closer to the master tape. The powerful climaxes are resolved more effectively. The drumming is more apparent. The flute is more prominent. There's just a feeling when you hear this is that this is exactly how the band wanted it to sound. It's lovely. A very, very nice pressing. And you might think it would be hard to top. The Classic Records edition has been my go-to for years since I got it. I made some notes on it. Let me see what I said here. I'm going to get into a little more detail for each song here. The Classic, right from the start, you can tell there's lovely detail on the guitars that open the album. There's a lot of 12-string guitars on this album that give it that magical music box kind of feel. And that's very apparent right from the start on this pressing. Peter's vocal, there's much more space around it. There's much more air and much more nuance in his delivery. So you really hear that on the Classic Records pressing. As good as the UK is in that regard, it is a step further refinement on the Classic Records pressing. There are more details apparent. not enhanced details, just more things brought out because of the clarity. And it's so beautiful to hear those little nuances, little cymbal taps, vocal layering, and things like that are really apparent on the classic, and it's a beautiful, beautiful sound. The flute part, interestingly, was much more obvious and had more character, so that was really interesting as well. The atmosphere is much more hypnotic. It draws you in a way that the UK pressing does, but not to the same degree. I think the classic is better in that regard as well. It also has a wonderful deep bass response. The organ, it sounds perfect. The bass pedals and bass guitar sound wonderful. It has a wonderful balance overall, and I think it has the best balance of all the ones that I listened to so far. The drum sound, much more realistic and powerful. The dynamic contrasts are much better. These songs go from soft to loud. It's part of the character of the big Genesis sound, where they will do something very delicate and then go into this powerful part, and all that is rendered really well with excellent dynamic contrast and shading. It's excellent, really, really good. The finale of the musical box is just astonishing. It's very, very good, very powerful, and you just want to get up and cheer at the end. Oh, there is one part in this that I wanted to mention. There's a lyric where, very famous, where Peter's singing, "And I want, and I feel, and I know, and I touch." And he modulates his voice so it goes lower and lower with each phrase. And you hear everything, especially that last one where he says, "and I touch." You can hear his lips part. You can hear his tongue. It's just like so vivid. It's wonderful. And then you get that big climax coming after that part. And that's part of the character of these records, is very soft whisper to very powerful, like right up against each other. And it's rendered really well on the classic. On For Absent Friends, much more expressive sound. The vocal sounds wonderful. There's more character evident in the vocal. I don't know exactly how that can be, but I guess that it's so clear and so vivid. It really gives Phil much more character. And it's so lovely to hear his voice layered against his own voice, and it's just beautiful, really wonderful. The guitars sound great. More detail and sparkle on the guitars. It's a great track, and it's elevated in my opinion on this pressing. The finale of the first side is The Return of the Giant Hogweed. Sounds like a silly song, but it's actually one of their best. It has a big drum sound, powerful drum sound, gorgeous organ, snarling vocals. You can turn it up very loud and it doesn't fall apart. The dynamic swells are overwhelming. It really moves like back and forth, like in power. And that's what's so interesting about this cut. I don't think I heard that on the others at all. The piano solo is rendered really clearly and gorgeous on this record. The classic records has wonderful power, wonderful dynamics and nuance, excellent extension on top, and deep bass. It's a very, very good pressing. And it would be hard to top, I would think. That leads us to this one. This is the new Atlantic 75 series. I want to show you that painting in close-up because it is so compelling. That's by Paul Whitehead. He did the paintings for the first for Trespass, this, and Foxtrot. The gatefold is beautifully done. It's a matte finish. It's almost like a linen texture, which is appropriate for painting. So even though like the first one was Selling England was gloss cover, this is very, very good, very appropriate. The reproduction looks great. It looks like a painting. It's amazing. The inside gatefold is like a scrapbook, with the lyrics. It looks really nice. And the labels are very interesting on this one. The label is a pink scroll label, except they've changed Charisma to Genesis, so it's a little deeper pink. It was a surprise when I opened that. I was like, oh, this is cool. What can I say? For Genesis fans, you're going to love this version. Musical Box has its own side, so all the things I said about the classic are enhanced here even more. Excellent dynamics, wonderful space, a quieter surface, more vivid sound, more enveloping sound, incredible bass. It never falls apart. It's all kind of is like a lot of dead wax, so even the climax of Musical Box ends right in the middle of the side, so there's no end of side distortion or end of track distortion. It's beautiful, really beautiful. For Absent Friends and The Return of the Giant Hogweed are on side 2. Again, all the things that I said about the classic, even more so here. For Absent Friends sounds the best of any of these pressings. There's not a question about it. Wonderful. Really, really wonderful. The Return of the Giant Hogweed is big, is powerful, it's menacing. It's overwhelming. By the time that ends, you're like so shaken up emotionally that you don't know whether to get up and cheer or shed a tear. I don't know. It's a great side. The other record is side 2 of the album, and I didn't do sonic evaluations of the other side, but I did listen to it, and it was always a side that I thought, oh, these songs are a little weaker. But you know what? That's not the case. It's not the case. Seven Stones is gorgeous, really beautiful. Beautiful arrangement, wonderful vocal clarity, a great mellotron ending. There's nothing not to like about Seven Stones. Harold the Barrel, maybe my least favorite on that side. But there's an opportunity for Gabriel to do some interesting voices, and the piano, drums, guitar sound great. It's a fun, jaunty song. Harlequin has the 12-string guitar. It adds that fairy tale touch to the side, very atmospheric. And it's great to hear Phil and Peter both on vocal and combining their similar voices in a way that is very compelling, and I'd never really noticed before on the other pressings. Fountain of, how do you say that? I always forget how to say that. Fountain of Salmacis was something they performed a lot in their early years. It is probably the more aggressive sounding cut on the second side. It has powerful swells, a great mellotron sound. Some great drumming from Phil. It's a song that it's great to see Peter perform. Actually, I'm going to leave clips for a couple of things for you to watch. One is to watch Peter perform the Musical Box on the Midnight Special. That must have blown everyone away. I'm going to leave some stills right now so you can see what was going on in that performance. If you've never seen Peter Gabriel perform in full makeup for the Musical Box, you have to see this. It is absolutely stunning. And it's in restored 4K quality. That was a late night concert show, and it must have blown away the US audiences when they saw that. Some of these other songs on the second side here, you can hear on a Belgian TV video that's out there. I'll leave a link for that too. Peter is not in makeup, but he's very compelling to watch the band perform these songs, and it'll give you a new appreciation for the songs on side 2, like Seven Stones and Fountain. Overall, even though this is not quite the accomplished album as Selling England by the Pound or Foxtrot, it still has highs that are incredible. and I wouldn't want to be without a copy of Nursery Cryme. For Genesis fans, this 45 is a revelation. It offers everything that's great about the classic and retains the character of the original album that you hear on the UK pressing, but gives it the space to breathe and enhances everything just enough where you've never heard the record sound as good. And Chris Bellman did a marvelous job on this. The printing of the jacket is beautiful. The pressing is absolutely silent. Everything about it is a win again for the Atlantic 75 series. I've loved all of them. This one is no exception. Those are my thoughts on Nursery Cryme. Let me know what you think in the comments. Until next time, I'm Scott for the Pressing Matters. Have a great day.